I want to be in a leadership position.
Others are taking credit for the work that you're doing.
I can do this job.
You're getting passed over for promotion.
I 100% know how to do this, and I deserve to be here in a leadership position more than anyone else. And that's what makes this so dangerous. You're playing with fire. I had a platoon commander that I worked for when I was a relatively young SEAL, and he was a pretty inexperienced platoon commander. He had come from a different part of the Navy and was late becoming a SEAL, and so he didn't have a lot of experience. And so when he took over, unfortunately for him, his ego compelled him to want to be the one making all the decisions. It compelled him to present himself as if he knew everything. Well, his lack of experience definitely showed through. And instead of taking advice from other people, instead of taking input from other members of the platoon who had more experience and had more knowledge, instead he shunned them, did everything his own way, which was more often than not the wrong way, and he ended up failing and being fired because of his behavior. And really, because of his ego.
This is why humility is the most important quality in a leader. And some of the worst mistakes that I made as a leader was when I was a young leader trying to prove myself, trying to show everybody that I was a competent leader, that I had the answers, that I could make things happen. When in reality, if you're inexperienced and you're new into a job or into an industry or whatever it is that you're trying to do, everybody knows that you don't have all the answers, that you don't know. So you actually have nothing to prove to anyone in that regard. And when you're humble, when you ask questions, when you just want to learn and want to help the team win, rather than trying to prove things to people, you actually become the kind of person that people want to work with and want to be a part of the team. This is the reason why humility is the most important quality in a leader. The same ego that's driving you to want to get promoted can set you up for disastrous consequences that burn bridges and alienate people and create frictional relationships and put yourself before the team. And that actually will set you back rather than creating the opportunities for you to get promoted.
Yeah, oftentimes the inverse is more clear, or the negative example is more clear than the positive example. So what you're talking about right there, Leif, hey, if you go into a leadership position and you act humble, people will accept you more. You can understand that, but if you talk about the inverse of that, the negative example, which is you come into a position as a new leader, and what you do is you start bowing up and telling everyone, hey, this is how we're gonna do it. I know what's best. I have all the answers. No one wants to work for that person. No one wants to work for that person, and we all know it. So keep that in mind when you are looking to get promoted, when your attitude is, I need to prove that I'm ready to be promoted. Therefore, I'm gonna bark orders. Therefore, I'm gonna act like I have all the answers. Therefore, I'm gonna act like I know everything. No one wants to work with that person. And I can tell you, no one wants to promote that person. That is why staying humble and being humble is absolutely critical for your career, for your life, and yes, for getting promoted.
It's the same thing when things go wrong as well. And it's counterintuitive because if something goes wrong, if the team makes a mistake or you don't hit your numbers or you don't accomplish your mission, you don't accomplish the goal, you miss the timeline on a project, you're over budget, whatever it may be. When something bad happens, we want to point fingers, we want to cast blame, we want to make excuses. Anything other than ourselves, right? Because that might actually affect my ability to get promoted. That might actually cause people to lose respect for me. And it's actually the opposite. It's the opposite. Because when you're in charge of something, whether you're just in charge of yourself as an individual contributor, or you're in charge of a small team, when something goes wrong, you're responsible. You got to take ownership of that. And when you take ownership of that, people can see that you're actually recognizing the failure on your part. And when you talk about the solutions that you're going to implement to prevent that from happening or to fix that problem, then they know that you're gonna actually get that problem solved. So they gain respect for you. They can increase trust in you rather than to lose that trust. Whether when you point fingers and you cast blame and make excuses, they know that you're not gonna ever take action to solve that problem And it's likely to happen again. This is the power of extreme ownership, and it's very counterintuitive, particularly when you're seeking promotion, particularly when you want to do well and you want to prove yourself to other people. But you've got to put your ego in check and take ownership, because that is the pathway to fix problems, get those problems solved, make sure that they don't happen again, because that will build trust in you, that will increase confidence in you, and that will prove to your team that you're the type of person that deserves to be in a leadership position when you can take ownership and get problems solved.
And this is one of the things that makes this course difficult. Because when you're talking about getting promoted, when you have the desire to get promoted, when you want to take on more responsibility, when you want to be in a leadership position, which clearly puts you in the spotlight inside of an organization, that desire that you have, that is going to come at some point. There is some ego to that. It is absolutely true. And this is what makes it playing with fire. Because the moment that you say to yourself, you know what, I think I'd like to be in a leadership position, that's your ego talking. And look, you might, of course you want to do it because you know you can help the team, you know you can help the mission. Yes, that's true. But there is some element of ego that is encouraging you to go ahead and raise your hand and think to yourself, you know what, I want to be in a leadership position. There's some element of ego there. And that's what makes this so dangerous. You're playing with fire. And you've got to contain that fire. You've got to let enough of that fire out. You've got to let enough of that ego out where you can say, you know what, I can do this job. I have confidence. I understand the mission. I understand what the role of that leader is going to be. Those are all egotistical statements. And you have to make them. Otherwise, you won't step up. Otherwise, you don't have the confidence. So there is some ego that has to come out to encourage you and propel you towards a leadership position. And this is what makes it so dangerous, because it is very easy for that little warmth that you're getting from that fire of ego, that little warmth that you're getting, that little spark that you're getting to step up. It's very easy to let that fire get out of control and let the ego get out of control. And it goes from, hey, I'm confident that I know how to do this leadership job. It's very easy for that to turn into, I 100% know how to do this, and I deserve to be here in a leadership position more than anyone else. And the moment we let our ego get out of control, that consumes us. So be very cautious. You're playing with fire. Don't let that fire get out of control. Keep it contained. Use it. Use that energy. Use that fire. Use that confidence. But don't let that confidence become arrogance, or the whole thing will go up in flames.